G'day, Trooper Cody and Steve, but this is one of our true crime videos, not a light horse video despite me being in uniform. Takes a bit of time to swap between uniforms, so let's just get a true crime video done. And this one should be our biggest rating video ever because it's about sex! Okay, now that I've got your attention, and now that Cody wants to walk off, what the video is about public indecency, about flashing, about being naked in public, about being a peeping Tom that looks at things you shouldn't look at that are rude. But the story is 1,000 years old. Now, everyone's heard the story of Lady Godiva riding naked through Coventry. I guess everyone's heard of the story because it is a bit voyeuristic. How about the truth? So what the truth is that yes, Lady Godiva did exist. She was really rich, and she was married to an extremely rich earl in a time when there were not many earls in England, Anglo-Saxon England, and their wealth was ridiculous. If you think, I don't know, Donald Trump or Murdoch or any of these people are rich, you've got no idea how rich Lady Godiva was. But Lady Godiva was actually a good human being. She supported the church enormously, gave huge sums of money to the church, which in turn helped the poor. So she was a very good person. Now, in 1066, most people have heard of 1066 because that was the Battle of Hastings when William the Conqueror came from France and invaded England. That's why we know that Lady Godiva existed before 1066, because her husband did lots of things for the church, which were people that were educated, so they wrote things down. So in the 40s and 50s, and by that I mean 1040 to 1050, those 40s and 50s, we know Lady Godiva and her husband did a heck of a lot. But how did he get the money? Well, he was a bit of a bugger when it came to taxation. So finally Lady Godiva convinced him that if he eased up on tax a bit, he would still be doing a very Christian thing. So he agreed, yes, he would ease up on taxes for the people, but he would not change or alter the tax for having a horse. Now you've got to pay rego and third party and all that sort of stuff on your cars that you've got. Well, back then, much like that, you had to pay a tax if you owned a horse. Now if you were a hard-working farmer and you had a horse, you weren't making $1 million, but yet you still had to pay that tax. So what happened is, Lady Godiva fought her husband about reducing the tax on horses as well. He is alleged to have made an off-the-cuff statement that if she gave penance through the city of Coventry, possibly through the market of the city of Coventry, if she gave penance, he would relieve the tax. Now, what that meant was, in that era, to give penance, you've got to remember, if you were a rich woman or man in that era and you had servants, they never saw you naked. When you got in the bath, you wore a shift. Shift is a type of, call it underwear, and it is a thin, flimsy gown, maybe like a petticoat, so that nobody actually sees you naked. Now, to give penance meant that because of your love of God, you wanted to show how much you loved God, so you would go in public, no jewellery, no crowns, no ornaments to show of your wealth. You would strip all of that off and you would walk barefoot in public in your shift. Because of who she was, and because it was about a horse tax, there's still a debate. Did she just walk through the market in her shift, or did she actually ride a horse? So anyway, that is where the myth comes from. That Lady Godiva, completely naked, got on a horse and rode through Coventry. It is a true story to a degree, which is slightly exaggerated, maybe for titillation, that she was naked instead of in a shift. Also, there's a story that the townspeople were told, don't look at her, but fear of death if you look at her naked. The reality is they're very, very deeply religious people. Because she was giving religious penance in a shift without her jewellery, no one would look at it. It was a sign of huge respect to turn your back and not watch her. That's because you respected her, you didn't look. 200 years later, around 1200 or something, a bloke is writing a story. In that story he says there was a tailor called Thomas who peeped through the curtains and looked at her and was struck blind by God. 200 years later is the first account of that actually that is the first time in history we can find a comment about someone looking at Lady Godiva. Lady Godiva is written about by religious, educated men. Better than that, though, is the fact that 1066, William the Conqueror takes England. After being in charge of England for about 20 years, he wants to make sure, don't you love the tax department? He wants to make sure that he's getting all the taxes he's due. So he sets up to have the whole country scoured, and every little detail of what cars you own and houses you own and caravans you own and boats you own is going to be recorded in the Domesday Book. They're going to count your property, your land, your sheep, your cattle, your dogs, everything, so that William the Conqueror can tax you. In 1085, Lady Godiva is recorded in the Domesday Book as being the wealthiest landowner in the whole of England who is an Anglo-Saxon. You've got to remember, William the Conqueror's Norman, come from Normandy, overtaken England, yet Lady Godiva, recorded in the Domesday Book as the wealthiest woman, a widow, that's a landowner in the whole of the UK. After being recorded in the Domesday Book, she died about a year later. She was buried with her husband in St Mary's Priory and Cathedral in Coventry. Sadly, remember we're talking 1,000 years, sadly, that building as such does no longer exist. But to this day, there are ruins that are still there in Coventry of St Mary's Priory. Not only can you go visit them and walk around them, but Time Team, the TV show Time Team, has been there twice and made documentaries about the remains of that property. So there you go. You heard a story, Lady Godiva riding naked through Coventry. Well, there's the true story of a true lady that really did exist and was much loved, and because of her generosity. So that's a true crime video. A sex true crime video. Well, not really, but it's still about horses. So hope you enjoyed it. Click like, make a comment, and if you haven't subscribed, that'd be great if you did. Cheers. Till next time. Thank you.